Good morning, Daily Huddlers. It's Monday morning. This is your Money Monday. Giovanni and I are coming live to you from Atlanta to talk to you about a little secret about your brain and its relationship to money. But before we go there, I need to ask our resident tennis player. That's you, Andrea.
Sure.
A question.
I am whatever
Andrea.
I say I am. So yes.
Do you know why women should never date a tennis player?
Why is that, Saurel?
Love means nothing to them.
Oh, yeah. That's good. I like that.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Giovanni. Great to see you. Andrea, how lovely to see you. Liz, lovely to see you. Saurel, how great to see you. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Thank you all for being here. And if you're on Facebook, welcome and thank you. It is not a small thing that you're here. And it is not a small thing you woke up this morning. Thank you all for being here. All right. So, Saurel, you know what I was thinking, Saurel? In Spanish, we don't say love for a zero in tennis. We don't say cinco amor, 15 amor. 15, 40, 40, yeah, 40 ser, 40 amor. Ventaja amor. We don't say in Spanish that, so it only applies to English.
It only applies in English, huh?
It only, amor. I should try, though. That'll be funny. I don't know why I'm going in this direction. I just had that thought. But thank you all for being here. Today we have a phenomenal question that we're going to engage in. And let me share this with you. So if you have a note and a pen, you don't want to miss this episode. What your brain wants will not make you money. What your brain wants will not make you money. That's what we're going to be engaged today with. And before we do that, let's get us all primed and ready for today's conversation. Cece, great to see you. Andrea, 2 questions for you. What time is it and where are you?
Gio, the time is now, the only time, and I am at the only place that I could be, here.
Love it. You actually said it in a way in which I got present to the whole thing. Thank you, Andrea, very much. Saurel, 2 questions for you. One thing you're grateful for, and how are you?
I am grateful for conversations. Conversations may be, for us, that which creates everything. And I am the way I say I am. And I'm using words to say that. How marvelous. I am plentiful. I am bountiful. I am abundance.
You're grateful for the opportunity of conversations, and you say today that you are plentiful. I love it. Your abundance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. Let's get us all started today. Alvin, he will not be joining us, and he may be dropping later on as a guest. We may be shifting, making some changes. And he should be here next week, Monday. But in the meantime, let's engage with a particular conversation that is critical to make your money. So raise your hand if you want to make more money in life. Yes, you want to make more money in life. Don't we all want to make a little bit more money, right? So there are certain aspects that we need to know about our brain and how our brain works in order to make money. Now, we're going to, I want to say it this way, Saurel, we're going to superficially talk about the brain. We're not going to dive into a dissection of the way the mechanics of the brain.
Absolutely. Like you and I are not neuroscientists and we're not pretending to be brain experts either, but we've got a little understanding that we want to share with you.
But there are some basics about the way your brain and my brain works that if we understand, you can make more money in your life, right? So we're going to dive into that a little bit. So there are two things, not the only two things, but there are two things that your brain gets hijacked about all the time. All the time. At the moment you wake up in the morning, there are two things that your brain is looking for. Your brain, not necessarily you, the conscious human being, your brain. Your brain is hijacked by two things primarily. The first one is, listen up, this is very critical. This will not make you money. It has nothing to do with make your money, and this is what your brain wants. If your brain wants it, you're going to do it. The first one is your brain is looking to keep you alive. Survival. That's something the brain wants. I mean, the moment you wake up in the morning, you or may not be conscious of it. Maybe what you're conscious of is, I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what you'll be conscious on the second one. But your brain might be looking at, what can I complain about today? But the first things the brain is actually looking for is, am I safe here? Is it safe here? Whenever you walk into a room, even though you're not conscious of it, your brain was already scanning if it was safe. Wherever you go, your brain is scanning for safety. That's a survival mechanism, and your brain always wants that. It's always looking for that. It's to keep you alive. It's our survival mechanism. And the ones who have survived, the human beings who have survived over time, are the ones whose brain has evolutionized to be experts at surviving. Make sense? Raise your hand if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. And Joe.
So I want to say one more thing, Saurel,
Yeah.
and then you add something up. And it has nothing to do with making money. Okay? Your survival has nothing to do with making money. And it's a need, right? This is Money Mondays, right? We gotta go make money, right? There are certain things we gotta do. And the primary reason for the brain, the primary activity that the brain is scanning for has nothing to do with money. Go ahead, Saurel.
Joe, this is fascinating, right? I'm discovering it as we're creating it. My brain's primary need is to keep me alive, my survival, right? And the way I have evolved, the way you have evolved, is that when the brain is scanning for safety, it's not necessarily scanning for a saber-toothed tiger or a bus barreling down the street or a gun pointed to your head. No, it's looking and interpreting the things you're about to do and saying whether they're safe or not. So when we aborted this question, right? What your brain wants will not make you money. The connection you want to make here is that the simple actions that you want to take to grow your business, the simple actions you want to take to save money, the simple actions you want to take that step to make an investment, your brain will say to you that that's not safe. That's not the right thing to do now. It has nothing to do with us surviving. So we're opening up the can of worms so you can start making the connection between the things that your brain wants and the things that make you money. And they're not one and the same. And more often than not, what your brain wants will actually say to you that what you need to do to grow your business, make investments, save money, isn't the thing to do now. And that's the point of this first piece of the conversation. Your brain is scanning the environment to see if it's safe to move forward. Now, pause for a moment and look. How many times have you known an action to take and you didn't take it because it didn't feel safe? That's the connection we're trying to make.
Primary need, right? We're not making it wrong. We're just distinguishing it. We're not saying there's something wrong with looking for safety. No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why their brain is going to do it over and over and over and over. We're not saying anything wrong with that. Primary need. And it's critical to distinguish it because looking for safety is not looking to grow your business. It's not looking to make money. It's not looking to provide value. Make sense? All right. So we're going to go to the second one, and this is critical to understand in order to be productive, in order to make money. Now I'm going to ask this question. Raise your hand if you know the activities that will make you money for yourself. Raise your hand if you know the activities that will make you more money for yourself. Right? We know the activities. The activities, for the most part, is not in our blind spot. You know, it's not like, wow, I need to go to Google to find out how I can make more money. Not necessarily. It's right there in your awareness for most people, right? Really, I want to say for all of us, but really for most people, the activities to make money are not in our blind spot. What may be in our blind spot is what Saurel and I are going to engage with, and it's the second. We're going to call it a need. Maybe a neuroscientist will call it different. Maybe an expert of the brain will call it different. We're going to call it, for the simplicity of this conversation, we're going to call it a need. The second need of your brain and my brain is to look for, scan for activities that generate sensations of pleasure.
We are born partiers, man.
At the level of the brain, I love that, Saurel. At the level of the brain, you and I are born partiers. I love that, partiers. I love that. What do we mean by that? So we're going to kind of scan your brain a little bit. We're going to dive in a little bit. This is critical to understand. What creates your habits, my habits? What generates habits, good or not, is a neurotransmitter that gets triggered in your brain, a chemical that gets triggered in your brain when you take an action. And that neurotransmitter that most of us now know by the name of dopamine. What that means is that when you take an action, whatever that is, when you take an action, and you complete a task, if you will, when you do something, your brain triggers this neurotransmitter, this chemical reaction called dopamine. And when it triggers it, your brain says, oh, that was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. When you were a baby, and do you remember when you were a baby? You guys remember when you were a baby? Yes, remember when you were a baby. You were a tiny little beautiful baby. Cece was a beautiful baby, right? When you were a baby and you were going to grab something, and you grabbed it and it didn't fall. All of a sudden, for the first time, you're this baby, for the very first time, you grabbed something and it didn't fall. You had control of what you grabbed. The brain at that moment triggered the neurotransmitter dopamine. It triggered dopamine and it felt good for the brain. And the baby, without consciousness, without language, without any expression, said the experience of that baby was, oh, this is good. So we go from this is good, this is good, this is good, this is emotion, triggering dopamine, and it creates habits. Make sense? That was my best attempt to explain.
Like we said, we're not brain experts, right? But you can relate to this. How many of you know what makes you feel good? And do you actually create occasions for you to repeat those actions, repeat those activities, repeat those words? That's what it's like. Now, Gio's making the connection between dopamine and that feeling good, right? Here's the trick here. The first time I get a dopamine hit from something that feels good, I want to do it again. But what happens is that the second time I get the dopamine hit, it doesn't last as long as the first time. So there's this thing called this loop that triggers the addiction, where the actions I take that makes me feel good, that triggers the dopamine release, I need to take more of the same actions to get the same feeling the next time. So
Trigger the dopamine, because
Yeah.
sometimes we're not aware of the feeling, but the brain is aware of the trigger. The brain is aware of the trigger.
yeah,
So how many of you like doing dishes? Maybe not that many. Andrea, a little bit. Maybe we like to have the kitchen clean, right? Not necessarily doing the dishes. However, when you're doing the dishes, right? You're washing and doing it, and one dish gets clean, your brain triggers dopamine. When you're sweeping your kitchen, you're not necessarily looking to sweep the kitchen as a sensation of pleasure, but you like the kitchen to be clean. The moment you're cleaning, you're taking that action, your brain triggers dopamine. Whatever you do, whatever task you do, that's why we love checklists. You know, when you do a checklist and then you check, list done, your brain says, yay, dopamine. Anything that you do, anything that you complete, your brain says check. And this is starting to point to that we can create a loop for ourselves of activities that has nothing to do with making money, absolutely nothing to do with making money, absolutely nothing to do with making money. And yet your brain still feels like it did something.
Now, there's something critical for us to say here and for you to anchor for yourself. Your brain, my brain, makes no distinction between a task that makes you feel good and makes you no money and a task that makes you feel good and makes you a ton of money.
Say that again, Saurel. Say it again.
Your brain makes zero distinction between a task that makes you feel good, so it can go check, and makes you no money, and a task that you need to do to make money that also makes you feel good. It doesn't make any distinction. But guess what? The task that makes me feel good and makes me no money are right there for me to do. That takes almost zero effort. So by the time I wake up and I say, oh my God, look at my bank account, there's nothing in there. My calendar is filled, or my to-do list is filled with a bunch of actions that are designed to get my brain what it wants, but not designed to make me productive or make me money. And that's the trap here.
Yes, so this begins to give us an understanding of why we have so much things to do during the day, and we keep creating this habit of creating more things to do during the day and are completely away from making money for yourself. Remember, today's Money Mondays. Tomorrow we'll talk about health, we talk about relationships on Wednesday, we talk spirituality, we talk about other things. But today it's about making money for yourself. Critical that your savings account grows. Critical that your children's savings account grows. Critical that you have a structure of legacy in your life, a structure of legacy in my life. And my brain does zero distinction, makes zero distinctions of the activities that make me feel good, that produce no money, and the activities that make me feel good and produce money. Zero distinctions. They're all triggering the same dopamine. Does that make sense? Raise your hand if that makes sense. That was, yes.
Now, smile or laugh out loud, a laughter of recognition, if your calendar is as filled as we're describing with things to do that make you no money. That's something, that's a terrible thing to confront.
Yes, thank
You
you,
are
Saurel, for
busy.
confronting us with that.
Huh?
Thank you for confronting us with that. Thank you, Saurel. Such a great
You
coach.
are busy, but you're not making any money. Now, here's the kicker. I'm about to say this, and I know it's radical. The very thing that sucks away the majority of your productivity is the very thing that your brain relates to as something that makes you really productive. Now that bears repeating. The very thing that sucks away the majority of your productivity is the very thing that your brain relates to as the thing that makes you the most productive human being on the face of the planet. And that thing is your wireless mobile device. Gio and I did not go on some rabbit chase when we partnered with Dr. Nidhi Gupta and Tara Heaton to create an event called Reconnect 2022. That's a 3-hour workshop being held this Saturday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. here in Atlanta and Buckhead. We see this link so clear, and we're adamant, we're committed that you who are listening not only increase your productivity, but create a new relationship with the activities that make you money and really get the connection between what sucks your productivity away and the already there connection that you have with it as the thing that makes you productive. So I submit to you that your wireless mobile device can be used as a productivity enhancer. But for the most part, you're not using it that way. And for the most part right now, it's the thing standing between you and quadrupling your revenue for your company. Now, Gio, I know that was radical and bold to say. What do you want to say about the connection between our brain's addiction to what our wireless mobile devices provide it and our productivity and our ability to make money?
It is just fascinating, Saurel. And so I want to invite all of you to see the world the way I see it right now, right? And it's not the only way to look at the world. It's not the right way to look at the world or the wrong way to look at the world. It's just a point of view in which I have come to discover that's really keeping me awake and it's keeping me wondering about the impact of cell phone devices to my productivity and my relationship to being alive and vitality and all the things I love. So as we are putting this thing together, right, take a look at the way I see things, right? So I wake up in the morning and my brain is looking for some sensation of pleasure, some dopamine reaction, right? And what it does immediately to look for it is maybe coffee, maybe go for a walk, maybe for anything, whatever. But then there's the cell phone. And how convenient it is that the very technology that's inside of the device triggers dopamine. So my brain says, all right, why not? I mean, who am I going to hurt? My children are sleeping, my significant other is sleeping. Why not? Then I just go into this instinctively. You see, it's not Giovanni, the loser, who wants to pick up the phone rather than putting it away. No, instinctively picks up the phone and just kind of look at maybe an email, maybe something else, maybe just for my brain is looking for pleasure. Now, the technology inside of the device triggers a ton of dopamine, right? So then all of a sudden I find myself doing reels and then maybe a Instagram thing and maybe a YouTube thing and maybe the news thing. And all of a sudden, 15, 20 minutes went by on absolute nonsense. But, I never admit this to Saurel, I never admit this at the Daily Huddle. I never admit this to anyone, right? Because I did get up at 7, just that half an hour I wasted my entire chemical my entire brain on nonsense, right? So anyway, so nonsense just downloaded to my brain, nonsense, right? But my brain liked it. My brain liked it. I mean, it's not like my brain didn't like it. My brain triggered the dopamine. So it was like, you know, that was kind of cool. So there was no real productivity happen, no real growth, nothing, but my brain liked it. All right, so then why not go for a walk, right? Okay, but I gotta distract myself from the walk because, you know, it's a long walk. So I gotta listen to some music, and all of a sudden my brain keeps on looking at that dopamine, keeps on looking at that dopamine, keeps on looking at the dopamine. And all of a sudden now I'm with my children. It's breakfast time. I'm with my children. My brain is looking for the dopamine. And so now my children are asking something, and you know, it wasn't entertaining to my brain. So I don't really want to listen to my children anymore because they didn't say something entertaining. And all of a sudden, the technology in my device, it's now impacting absolutely every area of my life. Everything. It's happening to me, it's happening to you, it's happening to your neighbor, it's happening to your children, to my children, to my parents, it's happening to all of us. How do we interrupt that? By being in denial about it? By making other people wrong? By shouting out loud? By dividing society? I don't know. Maybe self-awareness will be critical. Maybe, and that's why we want to invite you to discover a little bit more on the mechanics of your brain. That's what I wanted to say, sir.
That's awesome, Gio. And you know, that expands the idea of what your brain wants will not make you money. What your brain wants will not make you more loving. What your brain wants will not enhance your relationships. What your brain wants will not give you the life you're seeking. So this is the opportunity to actually take control, not just of your wireless devices, but also of your brain. So we've got 3 minutes left, Gio. Reactions, questions,
Comments, questions.
What do you want to say about this?
Yeah, buds.
Just looking forward to be there on Saturday, because yes, I do spend a lot of time with this guy, and you know, a lot of TikTok time, a lot of time before going to bed. So I'm really looking forward to see what's the correlation between the brain and the productivity when it comes to that. I mean, and to a certain point, it feels like it was meant to be, you know, like once you move around with this device, it was meant to be. And it dawns on me, you know, you go to anywhere, you're looking at kids, and even, you know, like the barbershop that used to be like the place where boys hang out. I mean, I walked into a barbershop the other day, man, everybody was like tuned in. I mean, there was no talk about the game. There was no talk about, you know, who's doing what in the NFL, whatever. I mean, it was just everybody tuned in. And these are people that knows each other. I mean, I hang out with a barber shop. You know, I know my barber for nearly, you know, 4 years or more. And everybody is tuning into their device.
Yeah, and then we're
Don't
feeling
hang out no
lonelier
more,
and
man.
lonelier and lonelier and lonelier
Crazy.
and lonelier. It triggers anxiety for us. Thank you, Ronald. That was beautiful. Thank you. Andrea.
This, what you guys were talking about, it triggered a memory when and I think it's a little bit interesting to see that we know that we're going to get distracted because that's a human nature, right? So it's making yourself aware that you know you're going to do it. What if you plan for it? So that's what I was triggering in my brain. And one of the things that I help people that I help with my coaching is, you know, if you're a procrastinator, you know you're going to procrastinate. So why don't you put it in your schedule? Just put 10 minutes of procrastination, schedule it, have it. So your brain already knows that you're going to have that dopamine trigger in your brain, but you can only do it at 3 when it's scheduled. So why don't we start thinking about planning for procrastination? Just put 10, 15, no more than 10, 15 minutes, and you just procrastinate, do nothing, go in your phone, but then you go back and get focused. So I was just one of the concepts that triggered my mind, like, we know we're going to be doing that, so why don't we plan for it? So that was my question. What if? Start planning for
What if?
procrastination.
What if you plan time on your calendar
To
to be
procrastinate.
with your wireless mobile device
Yes,
and be
exactly.
completely non-productive, non-money making, but doing it consciously?
Exactly.
Like how I relate to what you're saying, Andrea, is planning for the addiction, if you will, for those of us who have that, right? Like back in the days where most people smoked, you couldn't smoke in the office. That was really, really inconvenient for so many. But then you had your smoke time, your addiction time. You go outside 5 minutes and you release that, which created the addiction in the first place, the dopamine, and then you go back to being productive.
Yeah. If you feel that being in your phone is an addiction, then you may need to go therapy, honestly. But this is more for people that you know you're going to get distracted. Just plan for it.
Plan for the distraction.
Yeah.
I say, Saurel and Andrea and everybody, this is what I say. It's not true. I'd say that our society is blindly addicted to the possibility that the cell phone's on. And so I want to include myself in it to support those who need a hand in looking, that maybe we're addicted already. Maybe.
You know, Gio, I want to support what you're saying by saying this. The nature of addiction is such that the addicted does not know he or she is addicted. So consider that the way wireless mobile devices, the way applications that run on them are designed, the way that carefully use neuroscience and designers to trigger the quickest, most frequent releases of dopamine to the brain is such that we are running around an entire planet addicted and we don't know it. I know that's exaggerating, but that's where we can start. We can start there. And when we start there, we have an opportunity to actually tackle this conversation in a sane way. This is not an us versus them. This is, we're all together exploring what Giovanni's pointing to. We are blindly addicted to our wireless mobile devices. And if we start there, then how does it happen? What can we do about it? And how can we create, like you're pointing to, Andrea, how can we create structures that make us the masters of the wireless mobile devices, as opposed to it being the other way around?
What a great inquiry. Andrea, Ronald, Liz, Cece, Molly. Great to see you, Molly. I hope we can see you on Saturday, Molly. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you all for joining us and creating a conversation, making money in your life. We want you to be rich. We want you to be wealthy. We want you to pass on your legacy. You know, there's a lot of good people in the world with very little money. We got to create more money for more people. Thank you all for joining us. We'll leave you with the 7 tenets. Saurel, you want me to do the 7 tenets, or you're doing the 7 tenets?
Well, we can do one at a time or one together. I want to point to the fact that no, your wireless mobile device doesn't give you the opportunity to love more. Your wireless mobile device may make you laugh, but in the end, it leaves you stressed. Your wireless mobile device will never show you strictly plant-based diets. Your wireless mobile device will keep you awake. Yeah, there may be opportunities to give, right? All those notices that you get to give, they probably leave you a little bit frustrated and a little bit resentful. So in the end, the invitation is to get off the couch, get away from your wireless mobile device, and move your body, move your brain.
Thank you, Saurel. Join us Saturday, 2 p.m. Reconnect.expert, www.reconnect.expert. reconnect that expert. We'll see you Saturday. I love you. Bye-bye.
Saturday, 3 p.m.
See you guys. Thanks.
See you, Andrea.
Bye.
See you, Ronald.